Good evening and a very warm welcome to Radio and Television Tonga News Package for the hour. Making headlines, new petroleum prices records a huge drop for August. Prime Minister Huakavamai Liku this morning officially opened the first national convention in Tonga for water sanitation and hygiene. And Tonga leads the Pacific region in being the first country in the Pacific to submit the latest information on risk assessment. We'll have these and more stories later on in the bulletin. Now for the stories in detail. The Tonga Competent Authority has approved the new petroleum prices for August, recording its biggest drop since prices began increasing in the beginning of this year due to conflict between Ukraine and Russia. Petroleum prices for August to September will experience the first big drop in all product prices such as petrol, kerosene and diesel. Alice Tupo takes up that story.
Petroleum prices for August to September will experience the first big drop in all product prices such as petrol, kerosene and diesel. This pricing change therefore reflects the movement in international prices. The resulting wholesale petrol will decrease by 58.65 centi per litre, kerosene by 51.65 per litre, and diesel by 55.26 centi per litre. As a result, Dongatapo retail prices for petrol will decrease by 14% to 3 paanga and 70 centi per litre from the current prices of 4 paanga and 28 centi per litre. Kerosene will decrease by 51 centi per litre to 3 paanga and 8 centi per litre, and diesel by 55 centi to 4 paanga and 9 centi per litre. The mid-August 2022 price change is based on the July 2022 average of published daily mean of Platts Singapore benchmark prices for product prices and freight along with the month's exchange rate. While crude oil prices dropped on a month average, product prices fell more than crude, cutting into refining margins that were at a record high. The maritime freight rates have dropped slightly down by 7.3%. However, they remain extremely high due to ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. The Tongan paanga has slightly weakened, offsetting some of the reduction in international prices. These factors combined result in a larger decrease in all product prices. The government 20 centi subsidy for all products will also cover this pricing period, except for the power diesel. Reporting for Radio and Television Tonga News, I'm Alice Tupo.
The Honourable Prime Minister Huakavamai Liku this morning officially opened the first national convention in Tonga for water sanitation and hygiene on the critical importance of water, sanitation and hygiene to public health and development. Mark Ake tells you more.
During the official opening this morning, the Honourable Prime Minister Huakavamai Liku said that available drinking water was a problem following the volcanic eruption early this year and during the COVID-19 pandemic, with water distribution being one of the key responses to these disasters. The aim of this convention is for all WASH sector actors to map emergency response, recovery, and long-term WASH activities in the Kingdom. It also aims to identify specific issues that require management to address challenges in WASH, water resources management, water quality, and risk, and also to make recommendations for future actions and identify roles and contributions of different actors. Huakavamai Liku says water and hygiene is essential to all life, and all partners and stakeholders need to come together to address WASH issues.
This might be a good time to actually revisit this and look at the governance and the technical capacities of these water committees. We also have recently created a groundwater monitoring system which plays a critical role in managing and monitoring climate, groundwater, soil moistures we rely on for urban and rural supplies. We must maintain and support this system to make sure we use water sustainably in the face of a changing climate. Question that need to be answered is where are we with usages and what's the level of our groundwater? What kind of practice do we need to put in place to make sure that it is sustainable? Our National Special Planning Authority coordinates mapping and data management system and water quality monitoring. The authority receives, tests, and analyzes water samples Linking agencies and sharing data is essential for providing safe supplies and integrated water resources management. We are proud of the steps we have taken to ensure the vulnerable are not left behind. We need to bring young women and people with disability along with us and extend WASH facility to these groups to further reduce discrimination in access to services.
He says it's important to include in this convention any ways to eliminate all pit toilets in Tonga so people can use the WASH toilet as it will help them with their health and hygiene. It is understood that the National Emergency Management Office are conducting emergency services and assistance for the public after a natural disaster, in which Huakawa Meliku says this convention has the ability to set up a special operation body to provide assistance for the development of the WASH project. The WASH project is supported by the Asian Development Bank, in which the team leader, Bronwyn Powell, says will improve WASH practices through behavior change campaigns in households, communities, schools, and other public areas. The project is a response to the COVID-19 pandemic and has interventions across 14 Pacific countries, including Tonga. The Ambassador of Japan to Tonga, His Excellency Kensaku Monenaga, Health Director Dr. Siale Agawola, CEOs of the government ministries, and representatives from NGOs and related stakeholders attended the program. The program will be completed tomorrow.
Tonga is leading the Pacific in being the first country in the region to submit the latest information on risk assessment aimed at improving the Pacific Risk Information System and strengthening Tonga's capacity for disaster risk management and finance. This follows a survey was conducted last month here in Tongatapu, Vava'u, Ha'apai and Ewa, which collected data from households, road maintenance, bridge, airports, wharves, agriculture, water and animals in Tonga. Mark Ake again with the detail.
The project coordinator of PACRIFF, Lucy Fa'anono, told Radio and Television Tonga News the survey will benefit Tonga by contributing towards strengthening disaster risk reduction and disaster risk finance data for Tonga. Fa'anono says this includes providing assistance in strengthening local institutions to improve and update exposure data for Tonga, which will first build upon the existing capacity in the country, and secondly, strengthen baseline data that is needed for conducting risk assessments in the kingdom. Tonga will be able to use this baseline to build upon their further risk assessment work and support provided to Tonga from other development hazards. More than 8,000 households have been completely assessed by this survey. This includes 3,353 households in Tongatapu, 995 in Eua, 1,645 in Ha'apai, and 2,622 households in Vava'u. Fa'anono adds Tonga is proud of this institutional strengthening in Pacific Island countries. As we all know, we are very prone to natural disasters in the Pacific region. This project is part of the Tonga government's plans to assemble a comprehensive inventory of population and properties at risk.
The Police Commissioner Shane McLennan visited police staff in Vava'u last week as part of his introductory round of visits. His visit focused on 5 main points. First is working as one team, same team, support the front line and serve to empower and renew the commitment of the Vava'u police staff. The visit also an opportunity to Commissioner McLennan to lay emphasis on the important issue of custody management, which coincides with the custody management training delivered for the Vava'u police staff at the time of his visit. Not only that, but he got to meet district and town officers, church leaders and school principals in Vava'u as he continues to stress the importance of the police being one with the community by considering matters of the importance to the general public of Vava'u. Commissioner McLennan was accompanied by Deputy Police Commissioner David Vailea, who is responsible for Tonga Police Operations Command. And a New Zealand-based Pacifica Health Service, Tafono, has opened a new branch in Mount Wellington, New Zealand, after struggling to find a permanent home to house its food hub, where hundreds of food bags are distributed each week. Tafono also launched its latest service, Talangiola, a Pacifica mental health service, to make a huge strides towards better well-being and reducing stigma amongst the people of New Zealand. More than 100 community leaders, health experts and government officials came together for the opening of the new building and launch of the new service. In a media interview with the Tafono Service CEO, David Funaki, he said that the impacts of COVID-19 forced them to think about a regionalized office to centralize their food hub at a large enough space to store and pack essential supplies to be distributed to hundreds of families each week. Funaki added that the new office is a place where they can centralize their food hub and a place where the staff can work in a home that only drives the aspirations of people who walk through the door, but also an inspiration for his team. Meanwhile, one of the founding members, Colin Tukuitonga, acknowledged how far the Fono service has come since it was first launched in 1987. Tukuitonga is the inaugural chair of the Fono and keynote speaker at the launch of the new building. He says the Fono service started in the late 1980s, involving in all kinds of things, including food support for people struggling during the pandemic and engaging with communities to support housing and diet and all of those things that keep people well. Since the founding of the Fono in 1980s, it has now opened its 9th branch in Mount Wellington, providing affordable services across Auckland, including dental and social services. It is understood that the Pacific people have the highest death rate for all age groups in New Zealand, as reported by the latest New Zealand Ministry of Health on Pacific COVID-19 data. That wraps up this evening's news package, but before we part, here's one final look at today's top stories. New petroleum prices records a huge drop for Argos. Prime Minister Hoakavame Liku this morning officially opened the first national convention in Tonga for water, sanitation and hygiene. And Tonga leads the Pacific region in being the first country in the Pacific to submit the latest information on risk assessment. And that's it for tonight. Thank you for your company. I'm Waiwhanatua Paula. Good evening.